Alright, so I just finished up my first appointment today, and it was an Essex Studio, and the lady bought it. I think she had it tuned once, and then she went about 8 years without tuning it again. So as you can probably imagine, it was really flat. So it was about 60 cents flat, and what I mean by cents is 100 cents is a half step. So basically A was a little over halfway down to down to A flat. So needless to say, it took more than one tuning. So what we generally do when a piano is that flat is you can't just tune it once and expect it to hold and sound decent. You're just adding too much tension, and you're compressing the soundboard too much at one time. And so basically what happens is the strings are pushing down on the bridge. And if you imagine the soundboard is curved, and the bridge is on top of the curve of the soundboard, and the strings are pushing down on that bridge, and if as you raise the tension, the strings are pushing down harder against the curvature of the soundboard, so it's getting pushed flat. So all the strings you've already tuned, as you keep tuning up, they'll get looser, the strings you've already tuned. So it's basically losing pitch while you're tuning it. So you basically go about a third over where you want to end up. So if you're 60 cents flat, you go about 20 cents sharp, and you should end up somewhere around the pitch you want to end up, right at A440. So that's what I did. Tuned the piano to the pitch raise and tuning, and it took it pretty decently. Essex's are, they're alright. I mean, they're not my favorite pianos. At least that model Essex, the EUP-123, it's like a 48-inch studio basically. So I mean, its greatest strength probably is its size. It's big enough that the bass strings and the strings in the middle are long enough that they're going to have a pretty nice full tone. I mean, the main issue I have with Essex's, just like a lot of other sort of Chinese-built pianos, is that they just are kind of thin, especially in the treble, and vague. I don't know why on some of those Essex's too, the unison stability when you're tuning them, I don't know why they tend to drift a little bit more than some other pianos. But in whatever case, we got her back in tune again. I recommended that she tune the piano again in a month or two, give the piano time to settle. But the follow-up tuning when you pitch raise a piano like that is really, really important, because you want to give the piano enough time to settle, but you don't want to give it so long that, if she went another year and then had it tuned, it would lose enough pitch that there's a good chance we'd be doing another pitch raise on it. So it's like starting over every time. So, people that go too long intervals, especially when the piano is new, the pianos just never get stable. I can't overemphasize enough. If you buy a new piano, even if you don't think it sounds bad, in that first year, tune the piano at least 3, maybe 4 times. If you do that, it really just, it trains the piano to stay at the right pitch. And it kind of locks it in so that it's not going to be as likely to really drift as much in the years to come. So if you do that, it pays dividends. If you don't, every time the tuner comes, he's going to be changing the pitch so much that he's never going to be able to do a really fine tuning. To do a really good tuning, the piano needs to already be at the right pitch. I can't stress that enough. Here's a good analogy. If you play golf, so if you have a 1-foot putt, you're probably going to make it most of the time, right? So if a piano is 1 cent flat, you pretty much know where it's going to end up, so it's predictable when you're tuning it. Now if it's a 6-foot putt, let's say that's equivalent to about 6 cents flat. So a 6-foot putt, maybe you'll only make it half the time. So you've got a little bit more of a window. You're changing the tension on everything just enough that, it may end up great, but it may kind of move around on you when you're tuning it. Now, if you get further than that, let's say 15 or 20, so if you have a 15 or 20-foot putt, you might be trying to make it, but really you're just trying to make sure you leave it somewhere close enough to the hole so the next stroke you can hit it in. So that's kind of how it is with pianos too. If it's 15 or 20 cents flat, that's quite a bit. You know, every now and then you can do a pitch raise on one of those and it'll end up decent, but most of the time there's going to be a good bit of settling while you're tuning it. And when you get above 20 or 25 cents, you're pretty much starting over. I mean, you're doing a pretty major pitch raise. You know, I've had pianos up to 150, 200 cents flat. The craziest one I ever saw, I saw a piano that was 100 cents, or no. It was 200 cents. It was 200 cents sharp. Somebody tuned this piano a whole step sharp. Now, first of all, I have never seen that. I didn't know it was possible to tune a piano that sharp and not break half the strings in the piano. And what made it all the more incredible was that this was a little piece of junk spinning. I mean, I'm surprised the thing didn't fold up like a lawn chair. I mean, it was unbelievable. I've never seen that before. And let me tell you, pitch lowering a piano is just as bad as pitch raising. In some ways worse. Pianos hate to be lowered in pitch. And this thing, it took like 4 or 5 tunings to get this thing to stay at the right pitch. I mean, it was a nightmare. But, you know, it was actually from a technician. I asked the lady, I thought to myself, how is this possible? I mean, really, how is it possible that you could tune a piano 200 cents sharp? And I thought, well, maybe he uses an electronic device somehow. He got the wrong note or something. But even that, I mean, that would be really hard to make that mistake. And she said, I asked the lady what happened, and she said, oh, he said he's been tuning for so long that he doesn't even need a pitch source anymore. He just knows. He just knows where A is supposed to be. Well, apparently not. Because, I mean, the thing was, A was literally B. A was literally B on that piano. It was unbelievable. So anyway, that's probably the worst I've ever seen, with a piano being way, way off pitch. But that's kind of an oddball scenario. More typically what you'll see is, you know, pianos that have just gone too long. People don't realize, you know, they'll say, well, no one was playing it, so we didn't tune it. And, you know, I guess that's fine if no one's playing it. It's not going to bother them. But even if the piano is sitting there, it's going to lose pitch. So every year it loses pitch. So then when you get it tuned, it's just going to be extra money and more time. So anyway, my next appointment, I'm headed to another church. So I got to go there. They're a regular customer, so it shouldn't be too bad. And then we'll catch up with you after that. Thanks.